Welcome to the Humanity Center's session on how I became a Keck Fellow. We are very excited to have, I think we have all of our fellows are here. All of them are here. Okay. Everyone able to make it. And we also thank those of you who have joined our conversation. I'm Jesse Mills in the Ethnic Studies Department. I'd like to just take a moment to begin by acknowledging that we're working USD in the Kumeyaay homeland, the traditional unceded ancestral territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. And it's really important that we be aware of where we are and the ground that we stand on so that we can choose right actions and right paths in order to restore the wellness and wholeness of our world. So thank you all for being here. And I'd also like my co-facilitator, Lindy, to please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lindy Villa, and I'm the Humanities Center coordinator. So nice to see you all today.
All right, so we have a bit of a semi-formal, a less formal format for today. What we're really interested in hearing from the Keck Fellows is just a little bit about who you are and what has your experience been so far. So we just have some questions that have been circulated in advance, and we'll just have a conversation. That conversation can be free-flowing, but I would like maybe at first for everyone just to take a moment to please introduce yourself. So this would be just some of the basics of your name and what class year you are in school, or what year you are in school, and what you're majoring in, and just what's your research topic and who you're working with. So we all get just a sense of sort of how you're coming into this conversation. And what we'll do is we'll go in the order that I see on my screen. So we'll start with Emma, please, and then we'll go to Delaney and then Sam. Go ahead.
Hi guys, most of you know me already. I'm Emma Heflin. I am a senior and I'm majoring in philosophy and English. My research topic is about ethics and its relation to literature. So how do we ethically approach art? And what does ethical engagement with works of art look like?
My name is Delaney Tax. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. I am a graduating senior in the Ethnic Studies Department with minors in Architecture and Gender Studies. My research is titled The Urban Spatial Bodies, Knowledges, and Transcendence in the Built Environment, in which I'm looking at the ways that colonialism and colonial urban planning specifically engender meanings onto bodies along race, gendered, and queered lines. And my research mentor is Dr. Josen Diaz in the Ethnic Studies Department.
My name is Samuel Hixon, and I'm a senior studying biochemistry and interdisciplinary humanities with an English focus. And my project is titled From Sustenance to Decadence, a literary and scientific discussion of modern lifestyles driving climate change. And my mentor is Brad Malekian in the English department.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sara Badrani. I am a senior majoring in philosophy, and my research title is Why Bother? And more specifically, it is a historical and philosophical analysis on motivation. And my mentor is Dr. Tyler Hauer in the philosophy department.
Hi, my name is Sienna Todd. I'm a senior double major in visual arts and international relations with a minor in political science. My mentor is Professor John Holika in the visual arts department. And my research my project is Transformative Empathy, the Power of Art Activism, which is a combination of research and a series of my own paintings.
Hi everyone, my name is Reijer and I'm a senior majoring in industrial and systems engineering. And my research title is Analysis of Freshwater Hydraulic Engineering and the Development and Impact Through Ancient History, really looking at the aquatic engineering in the Neolithic period. And I'm excited to be here today.
Hi, my name is Alyssa. I'm majoring in sociology and interdisciplinary humanities. do not have a title for my research yet because it's both a sociological and literature emphasis or approaches to how education socializes us to behave in the very ways in which we do behave in everyday life. So it constructs our value system, it constructs our economic, our political values, every single type of who you are, it constructs. And my research mentor is Dr. Autry Foucan, and with the help of Dr. Carlton Floyd.
I'm Makenzie Nickel. I am a senior majoring in architecture, minoring in art history. My title as of right now is Force, Flex, Dance, and I am investigating the relationship of architecture and the body, specifically through the lenses of oblique structure and performance art. And I am working with Dr. Shannon Starkey in the Department of Art, Architecture, and Art History.
All right, thank you, everyone. What I'll do is I'll just basically throw the first question out and just ask Sienna to get started on it. And then anyone else that would like to share in your story, you're welcome to do that, but I won't feel the need to go calling through the line. And then once those who've shared on that have spoken, we can move on to other questions. So the first question is, Sienna, how did you come up with your research project idea? And how did you know that the Keck Humanities Fellowship was right for you?
Thanks. Yeah, so I think the way that I came up with my project idea, some past research in other classes, but it wasn't something I was ever really able to fully explore in any of my classes before. And so it was something that I really, really wanted to delve into and see how I could make that something that was, to me, something that's inherently interdisciplinary, how I could explore that through research. And I loved that the Keck Fellowship provided a kind of structure and community that is really incredibly supportive of that kind of research, and enabled me to explore this idea, not just through visual arts or not just through political science, but really delve into it in terms of something that's part of the interdisciplinary humanities. So yeah, I think that was kind of the main thing. It was these weird kind of connections that started to emerge in all these different fields that I was exploring, and really using that to kind of help bring it together through this research.
This is a good one for more of you to share in on. Like, yeah, what's the origin story of these really crazy paths that you're on? Oh, well, I should say cool paths, not crazy paths. So yeah, let's hear some more of them. Who'd like to share in next?
I'd be happy to share. So when I was a sophomore, I took a class on 1960s art and architecture, actually with my research mentor in the fall semester. And I needed to write a research paper, so I just kind of randomly chose a topic from the syllabus, which was about a couple by the names of Lawrence and Anna Halprin, and he was a landscape architect and she was a performance artist. And so that was kind of where my interest in architecture and performance intersecting began. And then in the spring semester, my mentor taught another class with another professor from the math department, Satya and Devadas. And they introduced to us this folding structure called the Stefan polyhedron, which flexes between two positions. And so then I had conversations with both of them, and we were kind of thinking, and Shannon knew about my interest in performance art. So we kind of started having conversations that led to this idea of like, what if structure and the body start to perform together? So that's how that all got started. And then they both just recommended to me applying for the Keck program. So that's how it happened.
I actually also got my research project from that class, but taught by Bill Zell. And I randomly chose Le Corbusier's Alger's Plan Obis off of the syllabus to write a research project on. And it ended up getting second place in the Copley Undergraduate Research Awards. and I just became absolutely obsessed with kind of looking at, like, I didn't get a good grade on the paper because I did it in a way that was criticizing a really like well-respected architect, and through the lens of colonialism, which is like my intersection of ethnic studies and architecture studies. So I didn't get a good grade, but I was obsessed with this concept, and was able to like continue nurturing that through specific classes, like with Jesse and Josen Diaz, and Bill Zell also has awesome classes on Michel Foucault, and I became obsessed. And yeah, like that architecture department really is so nurturing in that way.
Similarly, for me, there was a specific class that inspired me. It was a team taught called Apostles and Apostates, which was from theology's Professor Dr. Dulk and physics Dr. Sheehan, and they discussed kind of paradigm shifts, how knowledge was transformed, but more importantly, really how both the humanities and sciences can work together as opposed to being in opposition. And so we investigated issues like creation versus evolution, and we see this polarization, right, between how religion views the issue of the age of the earth, how things came to be, and science, and climate change is another one of those issues that has been made out in a very polarized way. And so I felt inspired because I'm passionate about environmental issues, to use the science side and the humanities side to explore anthropogenic climate change.
I got interested in my research from earlier on before I went to college. I grew up in Folsom, California, and there's a big dam at the lake there and a hydroelectric power plant. And I was always curious about the origin of a lot of hydraulic engineering. And I got even more interested in ancient history from a history class I took at USD. And I really was looking for an opportunity to dive more into my interest in history, with being an engineering student and not having a lot of opportunities to take extra classes. And so I found a research project would be a perfect opportunity to be able to combine two of my passions of history and engineering, and something that I've kind of taken with me from my childhood to now, and really kind of dive deeper into that, looking at ancient Greek and then also different time periods in ancient history as well. So that's kind of how I kind of got started with my research. Definitely has shifted throughout the project, but that was the starting point for it.
My situation is kind of the same as Reijer's in that there wasn't a specific class that I was inspired by, but it was actually COVID that inspired me. I came up with my idea around COVID when there was no motivation to do anything, or your motivation kind of just sort of slowly diminished gradually as we got into the pandemic, unfortunately. And so I decided to do it on the nature of motivation and just to study it in more of an interdisciplinary nature, specifically looking at it both in a philosophical lens and a historical lens. And the reason why I knew that the Keck Fellowship would be a great opportunity is because of the way that they support you. Going into research, it was my first time, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And so Jesse and Lindy do such a good job in kind of making sure that we're going the right path and ensuring that, it's not overwhelming and it's actually a fun and rewarding opportunity in the end.
Emma or Alyssa, any interest in
I got interested into my project idea from going to college and thinking why I was going to college in the first place, and what was the system of me being in the system of my high school, then me being in the system of a new area or a new institution. What was that doing to me, and what was I doing to it, and why did I keep on having to test? You know what I mean? Why did I keep on having to take tests and proving that I had some type of knowledge from a particular class? And then I met I met Dr. Floyd in a metaphors class my freshman year in the fall. And I had all these questions, and I kept going into office hours, and he kept on giving me books as if it was almost like a trail for me to walk down. And, you know, every week, and even till now, I always meet with him in office hours. And then I started meeting with Dr. Foucan, and then the office started starting to grow. And then I met with Jesse talking about the Keck Fellowship, and we were getting all creative with it. And so I think I have a love for learning, but then, and also a passion to try to make things better for others, and how to make systems more humanized. And so that's where the humanities come in. That's where we say we're all humans functioning in the system, and how do you make the system better? So that's where the idea came from with education.
Yeah, I'll weigh in here too. So I did research my freshman year with the summer undergraduate research experience. And something that I found is just that questions lead to more questions. And once I got started with my research, I didn't want to stop. I still had too many questions to answer. And now I have even more. So I don't know if it's really if research is working for me or against me, because I feel like I know less now, but I think it's important just to have that curiosity, and the curiosity is valuable in itself. And so I started doing research my freshman year on Shakespeare and racial representation. And then I got really interested in how virtues were ascribed to these characters based on their racial representation. And then, you know, I had a philosophy major in along the way and started wanting to talk about, you know, morals and beauty and how virtues appear in literature and what that does to a work of art aesthetically. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the long version.
It's so great to hear the process that each of you had ideas. Some of them were perhaps just a choice of picking a research topic in a class, and some were things that you've been really meditating on at a deeper level for a longer period of time. And we're also nearing this point where there's, you know, about a month left, right, in the formal period of doing this research. So I want to ask the question about how have you seen your research evolve, right? Where are you in this process of your questions evolving and changing? And has anything unexpected come up in the research process? And we'll just open this question for anyone who'd like to share some stories.
I think what Emma said about feeling like you know less is so like true. I think especially in my process, as I've kept exploring and like nurturing my research, I know less and less and less. And I think when I started this type of work into like the racialization of space and how space as a concept is manipulated by colonialism and imperialism and sexual identity and gender. I thought that no one was doing this work, and it was kind of like a really unique perspective, which of course it is. But like as I like explore research more and get deeper into like the community that surrounds this type of work, I find that my ideas are not alone. And in fact, what I thought was a very narrow field has ended up being something that is so large and unruly and creative in a way. And I think especially as time has gone on, I have shifted less from I started wanting to do like a historical analysis of third space, which is like the resistance to colonial urban planning and how othered bodies continue to resist through real and imaginary space. And I was just going to do a historical analysis of that. But those spaces have existed as long as like, you know, colonialism and imperialism have existed. And so it is impossible to narrow down that type of analysis. And so I shifted more into how people are continuing to create third space, whether that be through like, you know, looking at Black Panther as an urban renewal and urban like safety text in a third space text, or like looking at a Tribe Called Red music videos as third space planning text, and like what resistances in specific art forms than areas, and even just like occupying a street, like what that means for messages about urban planning and how we will continue to nurture community.
Did anyone else find your direction shifting or your questions shifting? Or
there were
Reijer?
two big shifts for my research. Yeah, the first being I originally wanted to analyze more quantitative amounts of water needs throughout history, and I quickly realized there's very little data available for water needs from ancient history, and B, it wasn't as passionate about that as I was for the engineering tools involved in the freshwater management. So I shifted in that way. And I also shifted in the sense that I was really passionate about ancient Greek history from the class that I took. And after meeting with a professor of mine and reading a book called Thirst, I quickly also realized that there's very little innovative water technology in ancient Greek history for being such a prominent culture at the time. They didn't have a lot of wet water management technology that was unique to them. And so I shifted my my research focus a little earlier in time period as well. And so those were two big shifts that took place, but always evolving, every week as I was learning new information.
I also experienced some shifts throughout the process. I think
Sienna, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Is anyone else having trouble? I think, I don't know what happened to your audio, but it's very low.
Okay.
It's getting a little better.
Go to, can you hear me now? Or
It sounds similar. It's still quiet. Okay. Sienna's gonna work the mic level scenario. Are you ready to give it another try, or should we see who else?
Can you hear me now?
That's much better.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I also kind of experienced some of that shift. I realized kind of when I started out on this project that I was looking at the idea of art activism in more of a broad terms, and trying to figure out how can I talk about this in an interdisciplinary way. But then I realized, as I started to continue on in the research, a lot of the focus that I was just kind of naturally being drawn towards was looking primarily at art activism that was exploring feminist issues. And I mean, I think that's partly because that's what my own art is focused on, these ideas of feminist stories and reclaiming representation. So that was already an inherent part of the project in terms of doing more personalized research into the paintings that I was producing. But then at one point I realized that I'd already kind of narrowed the scope of my project and didn't even realize it. So once I kind of recognized that point, I was able to see that the core of what I was looking at in terms of how empathy connects to art and activism really had this fascinating connection to feminist political theories and the idea of building knowledges based on empathy. And so this narrowing that just kind of happened naturally within my research process ended up being something incredibly critical for the theory of my project, and for discovering more kind of political and art texts that really are essential about this idea of empathy that's already established within these feminist. So I thought that was really interesting to kind of stumble on that, but then have that be something that really enriched my research process.
Thank you, Sienna. Anyone? Oh, Sam, you ready? Go ahead. You want to share in? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, similar to kind of the shift that Sienna described, I initially planned to try to create a creative nonfiction writing piece that was like very much prose styled. And I still preserved a remnant of that in the introduction to my work, but I shifted both in tone to more of a scholarly project and in content to a theme that I came across and became interested in, which was monopolization and control of news media, and specifically in a book called Manufacturing Consent. And so that became a large part of my project, and the kind of connectedness with nature through experiences in the outdoors became reduced in scope.
I just love hearing these stories about the process. Anyone else want to share in?
I can jump in quickly. So I also had the SURE grant over the summer, and this project, as I mentioned earlier, has kind of been floating around in my mind for, I guess, about 2 years now, 2.5 years. And so actually within the last month, I've had kind of a major shift happen because I moved from like the research and writing part of this to the second part, which is actually to design and model something to test my research. I've been, for 9-10 months now working on this as kind of an abstract thing where I didn't really place it. And then last semester for my thesis project, the first semester of my thesis class was completely unrelated to this, and I was researching Carmel Valley, which is kind of our San Diego, suburban community, master planned and everything. So I decided actually about a month or 6 weeks ago to try to place this thing that I'm working on in a site. And then just since I knew a lot about that site, I was like, okay, I'm going to place it in Carmel Valley. So I had always been thinking about this thing as like kind of a singular performance between like one actor and the object. But now I've started, and I was worried because I was like, what is the practical implication of that? What if I do all this research and then it ends up just being kind of an like this thing that doesn't have any practical application in architecture? So now I've started thinking about this thing not so much as like a singular performance with like a body or a couple of bodies, but actually like sort of a social community performance, because the object I'm working with can be aggregated to create these really intricate chains that might start to densify areas as it like weaves through existing structure. So I'm kind of, I guess, calling my performance, so to speak, right now as like a social densification of developed areas. So I'm excited to have kind of a practical idea for this instead of just an abstract kind of place that I'm in.
And if anyone else who didn't have a chance to answer about the research evolution, you're welcome to touch back on that or fold it into this next question, which, just so everyone out there listening understands, when proposals come in and get awarded, we don't expect the final result to necessarily look exactly like the proposal. And it's for all of the stories that you just heard here, right? There's a process of coming across new questions, finding new interests, reading new books, like many of you are. So that's part of what we expect. We also know, as in some of our conversations, that can be a little, let's just say, uncomfortable at times, kind of where we started out today talking about some of the, I don't know what I know, and I don't know, do I really know what I'm talking about? So what we hope for is that the structure of the fellowship supports you through that process, right? We hope that the way that you can be in conversation and go through those, let's just say, moments of less clarity or moments of more clarity, you have a community that celebrates you all along the process and encourages you along the way, that this is normal and you will get there. But the question is, how has the structure of the fellowship helped or challenged your research? So I'd just love to hear a little bit more about the experience of actually being on the fellowship and the ways that you found it supportive or perhaps frustrating, or some other way that it's challenged your work.
I think I can start off with this one. I think the freedom that the fellowship provides both challenged and helped my work in a way. It helped in that it allowed me to raise questions and research questions that I would have never had the ability to do in classes, since it's my research, it allows me to do what I want to do. So I love that. It challenged me in that because there's so much freedom, I kind of want to explore everything. And so you kind of get lost and you get overwhelmed with everything. And you're like, oh my God, do I do this? Do I do this? And you kind of just want someone to tell you what to do. But in this, Jesse and Lindy don't do that. And they're like, no, you have to do what you do. And so that was both challenging, but also very supportive.
Emma, I saw you were about to communicate in on this one. You want to jump in? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think I've been finding that the length of the fellowship has been a real challenge, because previously when I did research, it was over the summer, it was like very kind of cut and dry. This is what I want to do. Now I have to try to do it in 3 months. And with a year-long thing, it has so much more time to develop and change and twist and turn, and you develop such a complex relationship with the work. And I find that really difficult. And I think it puts doubt in my mind, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I having the right outcomes? But again, like Sarah said, in the end, it's what you want to do, and that's what matters. And so it's been very challenging, but I think it's really helped me grow in that I know I'm the boss of my own research. Like, I am the star of the show, and I get to explore what I want to and develop the relationship that I want to have with it. So yeah, it's been very challenging and rewarding at the same time.
I think going off of what Emma said, those feelings of doubt, like imposter syndrome is 100% a thing, especially I think with the online environment. It's been something I've struggled with a lot. And so, there are times, especially considering this is, over an entire year, where you start to question, like, am I really, like, is the work that I'm doing worthy of this opportunity I've been given? And you kind of worry about those things. But I know that every single time I've had those doubts and we've met back up with the cohort, we've had our meetings and kind of gotten to collaborate, you realize you have such support of people who are going through the same challenges. And I always would come out of these meetings or these conversations with you guys feeling just infinitely better about where I'm at, and feeling just reinvigorated and remotivated to keep pushing on. So I think that there is challenge in terms of it being a year-long thing, and making sure that you're acknowledging that your work is valid and important, and that people are interested in it besides yourself, but also having that support network is just absolutely invaluable.
I would just like to second what Sienna said. I completely agree. And one of the biggest things I was looking forward to in the Keck Humanities Research Fellowship was the fellowship part, the opportunity to have dialogue and discussion with other students that are equally as passionate about their topics as I am about mine, and really share that passion was inspiring. So I really looked forward to our bi-weekly or monthly check-ins, checking in via text or just talking to the other fellows was motivational, and I really appreciated that. Additionally, advice to future Keck Fellows, I'd say, is I wish I would have started reading more books over the summer prior to my research. During the semester, during the school year, it's easy to kind of have a book or two throughout the school year, and to supplement other research material through the library. But books are denser, and I wish I had started with a few more books over the summer. So that's my advice for future fellows.
We'll keep the structure of the fellowship question still open if anyone wants to answer that. But I will want to also introduce the last question that we had, which is just what you do consider of the benefits of the fellowship. So we've heard a number of things here, including these responses, but any other kinds of benefits of the fellowship that maybe you haven't had a chance to speak on yet?
I think there's definitely an opportunity for connecting with a larger academic community, which is so important. Like, I just got out of presenting at my first national research conference like 30 minutes ago. So, like, that was an opportunity that I never thought I would have without Keck. And I think like research and being able to present on that and then meeting other like crazy passionate people who feel the same way about that random topic that you do is super exciting and like invaluable. I think that was definitely what I've like the structure of Keck has helped that with it being a year, and then also working with closely with like academics, whether that be a mentor or the folks Lindy and Jesse who are running Keck, like obviously so knowledgeable about the academic world, and while it can seem like so daunting, like there's a structure there to help you.
There are other benefits of the fellowship?
I think
Sarah?
one of them that I completely just remembered is working with a professor. I mean, you get to work with a mentor all year long, and they just have such good knowledge, and they just inspire you to further pursue your passion for research. And I think just being able to get good advice from them in order to kind of strengthen your research overall is just a rewarding opportunity in of itself.
I could kind of pitch in 2 cents if we want to keep going here. I think just by having a cohort to simultaneously go through things with you, that is just having that, even if you're touching base and not really, even if you're not doing like massive collaboration, I think, which became difficult in the virtual format, just having that cohort present is it's like an affirmation, like, okay, we're going through this together. And having a group to text and bounce ideas off, or hey, what do you think about this? And people affirming or saying, oh, have you thought about this? But just making as well the gravity of you and your mentor's relationship, like, okay, there's a fellowship project, here are deadlines, here's a conference, that I think puts a kind of seriousness to the research. And then, I think a unique aspect of this fellowship is the interdisciplinarity, which is kind of a term that's becoming prominent more recently, from the Western academic tradition breaking up knowledge and scholarship into disciplines, which I think became exacerbated in kind of with the division of labor you see in a capitalist society, where becoming specialized is so important. Specialization, and now we're seeing a turn to, hey, interdisciplinarity is very important. We have complex problems that require complex solutions and can't always be boxed into these specific binary disciplines. So that's a really cool aspect of the fellowship, is how they encourage interdisciplinarity.
Love it. Love it. What a great conversation. This is, anyone else want to share any ideas? I would also invite Claire or Bryson as prospective Keck fellows, Sheridan as a supporter. You're welcome to kind of jump in, or if you want to throw a question or something in the chat. There's obviously no expectation, but you've got kind of the entire cohort of fellows right in front of you. And if there's something that's been on your mind and you'd like to hear about it, this is a great opportunity. We do have a couple of minutes left.
Some of you guys explained it, but I was wondering, what generally are you guys producing as like your final product?
I can take that one. For me, I'm producing an academic paper. It wasn't the first thing I wanted to present. Going into the pandemic, I more wanted to produce kind of like a collage of something using photography. So what I'm saying by all this is you can produce any type of medium to try to show what what you have researched. So you could make a film, you could do a paper, you could do a short story as Samuel was going to do, or a nonfiction work. You can, the sky's the limit type of a thing of producing.
I'm planning to, well, I have a paper, and then I had originally planned to build like a full scale installation of my like design speculation to test it, but like with COVID and everything, like I'm still gonna build it, I think, over the summer when I have time, and hopefully restrictions are a little bit less limiting. But as of now, I'm planning to model, and I have also a series of drawings kind of explaining my research in a visual sense.
Yeah, I mean, similarly in terms of like the flexibility and stuff, like my research is a combination of like written research, but also I have a series of paintings, which the exhibit's actually up today. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of explore in terms of different pathways for it. It doesn't just have to be a paper, or you can have a paper and amplify it with something else, or really focus in on that research. There's a lot of flexibility, and it's whatever is best for you and your project.
Okay, I do actually have two questions. So one I was wondering about is how the fellows took it from like maybe more amorphous idea and then came up with their proposal timelines, and then how that changed as you said, like your questions have changed as you've gone, and then so how did that work with your initial timeline? So that's one question. And then my other is that if these research projects are involved in any of your like capstone theses for your majors or for the honors program, and how that fits in.
I can answer the second one. My first half of my Keck paper was my honors thesis, and then my ethnic studies capstone is going to just be a different kind of lens on the second half. So I think there is space to like nurture, like have more time to nurture your specific research interests. And I think it fits. I mean, I really enjoyed doing the honors program, especially like in the context of my Keck research, because it gave me like more time and more like perspectives on my work. And so I think that's great. And it's also like a really great opportunity to explore different types of pathways and lenses that you can use. Like, you know, I'm doing like a more of like an ethnographic look for my ethnic studies capstone, but more like head on with Keck. So.
And then to build on what Delaney said, I think that was all good. Claire, yeah, excellent question. For honors, you can't have a direct like you can't just take like a normal project and have it count as your honors. For honors, you'd have to do like a little add-on, like it could have to be a little longer in length or more in depth, use more sources. Your honors has to be kind of a in addition to what you're doing. And then timeline changing, yeah. So Dr. Mills kind of emphasized it earlier, but things are expected to change, especially for our cohort. Before COVID, we wrote our timelines and our proposals, and so many of us expected to maybe be talking at an on-campus event or try to host an event with some professors or do things like that. And it's changed in how you're going to disseminate. So for instance, I received an email last week saying, hey, we have an alumni event. Could you present? It's on climate change. Or so I think Delaney just went to a conference, maybe virtually, if not in person. And so the opportunities for dissemination, they may change, but I think you do want to try to think of how you are going to accurately at the beginning, how you're going to disseminate. And if they change, I think that is appropriate based on the circumstances.
In the interest of time, I'll just also reinforce what several have mentioned, which is this is where the relationship you have with your research mentor is critical. So you want to make sure that you do identify somebody that you enjoy working with, and that person, or in some cases there's like a team, like in Alyssa's case, for instance. But that's where you want to have conversations that help you take the ideas, all of those like really interesting ideas and experiences you've had, and they help you shape it into an effective proposal, like a plan with a timeline and steps and a goal. So I just want to reinforce that piece of it as well. But I would certainly lift up the whole point of this is for you to have that independent experience. It's independent, but we want you to have the support of a community. We want you to have the support of faculty mentors. We want you to have plenty of support that's there, but it's a real opportunity for you with that support to hone your ideas, to build your knowledge, and to actually steer, the direction of where you want to take, your knowledge and expertise. And on that note, we're just a few minutes over. I would definitely like for everyone to take a moment to thank our panel and thank each other. Thank you so much for taking this time. I always enjoy our monthly meetings. This had a little bit of that feel where we get to dig into the conversation about what's going on and where are we headed. But thank you everyone for participating. If you have further questions, you can send them either directly to fellows or to Lindy or myself, and we can make sure your questions get answered as you look forward to applying and perhaps becoming a Keck Fellow yourself. We'll go ahead and formally close our session today. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you again to the Keck Fellows. We really appreciate this insight and knowledge from your experience. So have a good day and good week, everyone.